Hi guys, my name is Aima Akhazemea and I'm doing this video blog in relation to my MA in Youth Ministry and in particular the module about contemporary youth work, and that's based in Oasis College for Higher Education. Yes, so I'm doing a video blog because I actually thought in relation to the topic I want to cover, I actually wanted to get it out to a broader audience. Of people that may be related to this topic that is not usually talked about that much. And the topic I'm actually planning to talk about today is the youth worker in a Black church context. Now, short background just to kind of make that make sense. I am a youth administrator in my church, which is Open Heavens Christian Center, and as well I'm also a youth leader, or in this case, youth worker, and obviously I relate with tons of young people on a regular basis, and obviously working with a volunteer team that also foster that development. Now, when I first got into the job, I thought I knew quite a bit about youth work, but then I realized that, actually, when I stepped into my MA, felt like I didn't know that much actually, and having a chance to develop myself and actually learn a lot more about youth work has been very beneficial to my practice and has actually opened my mind up to a lot of the things I do or don't do in relation to youth work that actually is effective. And I wanted to share that, and my development, and hopefully it will actually help other youth workers that are working in a similar context to what I'm working in. Now, usually when it comes to clarify, I mentioned about the topic being youth worker in a Black church context. Now, to clarify, if you are a worker working in a predominantly Black or African church or Caribbean church and you're working with young people, then you would fit the criteria, the context of a youth worker in a Black church context. Dependent on the type of church you go to, you may have a lot of support in your youth work. You may be given resources and attention, and the parents love you and the kids love you, but that isn't always the case for every youth work operation. And sometimes there are certain stereotypes that get put together when it comes to thinking about the youth worker. Now, one of those stereotypes could be that the youth worker is actually a babysitter for the teenagers, so that during the service the adults are doing what they're meant to be doing and the teenagers are put in one place so that they can learn whatever the youth worker has for them. Secondly, there's also the opinion that, the youth workers are just trying to be popular. Maybe they weren't popular in high school, and now with lots of young people around, they're trying to become popular. Another opinion is that they're trying to get out of the main service because they find it so boring, so they've decided to rely on this service. Well, for me, I think that was actually kind of true. I just couldn't handle being in the main service, and it used to be really boring for me, and thus I ended up working in youth work. But no matter however you got into youth work, the reality is that once you get in, you actually find out that there's something really important about this youth work and something really genuine about working with those young people. It's a whole set of people that are looking forward to a new way of doing things, and you're part of their learning process in order to develop themselves. Now, here are some interesting facts when it comes to youth work, because sometimes we see youth work as young people, we have a bit of fun with them, do a bit of teaching, a bit of a laugh, but taking it into context in relation to the youth practice, according to the National Occupational Standards for Youth Work, they say that their key purpose of youth work is to enable young people to develop holistically, working with them to facilitate their personal, social, and educational development, to enable them to develop their voice, influence, and place in society, and to reach their full potential. Now, this statement refers to the holistic development of young people, recognizing that personal, social, and educational development can also include, for example, physical, political, and spiritual development. Now, this is where we come in as youth workers that have a faith and work within churches. We are meant to be responsible for the holistic development of our young people, which includes spiritual development. Now, they have the opportunity to go to school and they learn a certain type of education, which we call formal education. They sit in front of a teacher they're being taught, the teacher expects them to learn, and the way the teacher finds out is through assessments and criteria and exams. But when they come to church, is that what they're really looking forward to? Are they looking forward to another version of school where somebody is just telling them what they are meant to be doing and where there is an exam? Well, the reality is that in most of our churches, there's no exam. There's no opportunity for them and for us to see if they are actually developing. But what we actually need to do, what interesting concept I came across through my study that I thought is actually really vital to how I should approach my young people and how, I teach them, is something called informal education. Now, informal education turns the idea of formal education on its head, looking at education from that the young people, are actually the ones fostering this education. They are the ones developing themselves, but you provide a platform and an environment that they can work in. And with this happening, this usually happens without us even knowing it. I'm sure you've heard of the term that says read between the lines. Now, it's the same thing that is happening with young people all the time, no matter what age they're at, whether they're still children or whether they're about to be adults. Children learn certain habits from their parents that their parents didn't even expect them to pick up. That's informal education. Same thing for young people. But young people are now at that stage where they're in that transition period between being a child and an adult, which is an interesting place to be, because within that scope of informal education, you can create an environment where there is still imagination going on, imaginative play, but at the same time structure and order, and giving them, advice that can help them to develop. And you can have this through conversation. I am sure that a lot of your youth work is actually based in conversation, where you are talking with your young people and getting them to be interested in certain topics and certain issues that are important to them. Now, sometimes in a church context, and I have been guilty of this, we tend to be all like, oh, this is what we want our young people to learn, and we bombard them with certain thinkings, but then you see them switch off, they're not interested. But the moment you pick a topic that they're interested in, the light bulbs go on and they're very excited and they're willing to participate in the conversation. Now, that's the very important aspect of informal education. It's about creating those conversations in which those young people will actually be interested and alert enough to participate in their own development. And obviously, when you're talking about the Bible, we're talking about spiritual development. Now, in relation to the Bible, when you look at someone like Jesus and the relationship he had with his disciples, he had a very conversational relationship. He spoke, they listened, they talked back to him, they asked questions that were relevant to them. And it's the same thing that we can actually incorporate in how we relate to our young people. So that is my inspirational thought for the day. I hope you enjoyed this little bit, and if you have any questions, because what I would like to do is to be able to put something online on a regular basis. So if you have a certain question that has to do with youth work, youth ministry, that you would like us to talk about, do some research and come back, then please leave a comment at the bottom and I'll be able to try and get back to you. I hope this has been helpful. Take care and God bless.